Must a divorcee or widow cover her hair? Just as she did when she was married. So we all know that a married woman, as soon as she gets married, begins covering her hair. And this is a biblical requirement from the Torah. But there is a lot of confusion involved regarding a woman who is no longer married, either due to being divorced or becoming a widow, Rachmana litzlan. Must she still continue to cover her hair or not? There is much misconception, misunderstanding, and distortion regarding this topic. And let's clarify what in truth does it say in halacha in the poskim. Before we begin, let's go through the sides of logic to prohibit and to permit a woman to go with uncovered hair. On the one hand, one can say, the whole idea of covering your hair is a sign of tznius to show that you're married. So once you're no longer married, there's no reason anymore for covering the hair. And those who cover the hair seemingly is just a chumrah or a hiddur. On the other hand, one can say that the Torah required that once a woman begins covering her hair in marriage, it must remain covered for the rest of her life. Perhaps due to reasons we don't know, just as many mitzvahs in the Torah that we don't know the reasons behind them. Or perhaps due to the fact that she already started covering her hair. These are different sides of the subject of reasons to permit or to prohibit her going with uncovered hair. What now does it say in the Torah, does it say in the poskim and the Shulchanaruch? So we have a very clear ruling in the Shulchanaruch and Even HaEzer and the Mechaber. Even HaEzer chapter 21, Halacha 2, based on the Rambam, Ilchis Yisur Biyah 21:17. That both a married woman or a single girl is forbidden to walk in public with uncovered hair. Bein pnuya, bein eshes ish. So we see a clear ruling in the Shulchan Aruch that when it discusses the prohibition against a married woman going with uncovered hair, it includes also a single woman. And it makes no differentiation in severity. The same halachic source for prohibiting a married woman to go out with uncovered hair, in the same sentence, includes that a single girl should not go with uncovered hair. And of course, the poskim have a field day with this statement, asking what single girl is he referring to? As far as we know, our girls, before they get married, they're single, they don't cover their hair, they don't come to Beis Yankiv and to Beis Rivka with a sheitel. So what is he referring to? So the Achreinim clarify and explain that it's referring to a widow or divorcee. A girl that's never yet been married, a psula. Even they agree that she's not required to cover her hair. However, a once married woman, even though now she is single, the obligation of covering the hair remains in place. So rules the Beis Shmuel, the Chelkas Machokek, the Bach, the Berhetiv, the Deguma Ravava, and it's all based on a Mefurish Yerushalmi Maseches Ksubis, end of Halacha 1, which states that a woman who goes to her chuppah with uncovered hair, we know for sure she is a basula and deserves to get a ksuba of 200 zuz. And the Gemara asks, maybe she was already married and got divorced, and that's why her hair is uncovered. And the Gemara answers, from here we see that once married, the hair always must remain covered. Now, what's the reason behind this obligation? Why do we obligate even a single girl to cover her hair if she was once married? So some poskim suggest that this is a rabbinical obligation, meaning while covering the hair as a married woman is a biblical obligation, covering the hair as a single woman who was once married is only a rabbinical obligation due to Das Yehudis, the laws of tznius that the Jewish people accepted upon themselves. One can also perhaps suggest, according to Kabbalah, in which it's explained that the reason a married woman must cover her hair is because the hair, once married, represents gevurus and is able to give potential nurture to the klippas, and therefore must be covered. So too, regarding a woman who was once married, that issue still remains. In any event, what is clear is that some poskim explicitly write that this obligation is only rabbinical as opposed to a married woman, which is biblical. Now, from Jews follow biblical and rabbinical mitzvahs. Is there any difference in law whether it's biblical or rabbinical? So we do find a fascinating chiddush, a fascinating novelty in one of Peskei Dereinu, the Igros Moshe, and two separate shuvas, Even HaEzer 157 and 432, in which he was asked regarding a woman who had a job opportunity at a office in which they said, if you cover your hair, find a job somewhere else. She was a divorced woman. Moshe said the following. Number one, covering the hair for a divorced woman or a widow is only rabbinical. Number 2, there's room to learn that covering the hair is not a prohibition. It's not that it's usher to go with uncovered hair, but it is a command. Go with covered hair. Now, even though this sounds like a nuance of a difference, in halacha we find a ramification that whenever you have a positive command, which will cost you 20% of your income, you don't have to fulfill it. As opposed to a negative command, which you must fulfill, you must abide by, even if it will cost you all your money. So says Reb Moshe that since covering there for a divorced woman or a widow is only rabbinical, and we have a question whether the concept of covering the hair is a positive or negative idea, therefore by a d'Rabbanan, by rabbinical, you can be lenient, and he practically allowed this woman to uncover her hair in the workplace while working. In a similar tshuva regarding a girl who was looking for a shidduch, she was a divorced woman looking to find a new husband, and she felt that covering her hair would ruin her chances. And Moshe gave the same type of heter, saying since it's a great need, it is mutter for her to go with uncovered hair for this purpose. But he concludes the shuvah in saying that this heter only applies in that specific situation and is not an all-time heter for the rest of her life. While she has a prospective date that in this specific case it may cause the date to be turned off, then she can go with uncovered hair. Do all poskim agree with this great chiddush of Rav Moshe Feinstein? The answer is no. Majority of poskim completely reject this ruling and say there is no leniency applicable for a divorced or widowed woman to uncover her hair, and they one by one reject the ideas that were stated by Rav Moshe, bringing opposing proofs against it in which he upstood his heter. So ruled Rav Ovadia Yosef in Yabia Omer Even Ezer 4:3, rejecting the tshuva of Rav Moshe, and so also was brought in Divrei Eliyahu 9:157, Michzeh Eliyahu 120, Lev Avram Weinfeld 107. And practically so is the accustomed ruling and practice amongst all God-fearing Jews that we give no room for leniency for a divorcee or widow to uncover her hair, even in pressing circumstances, just as we will not tell someone you can stop keeping a certain mitzvah because it's a pressing circumstance. Even those who would like to go according to the lenient approach must be aware that the heter of Moshe, which is the lenient approach, only applies, as we said, at the time of necessity. It's not an all-time heter. In a specific situation where it is necessary due to losing 20% of one's income or not finding a shidduch, then Rav Moshe gave his heter. But to think that this allows a divorcee or widow to walk around with uncovered hair regularly was never the intent of Rav Moshe, as is explicit in his tshuva. And certainly that is a distortion of his words. Furthermore, one can add that the above situations which Rav Moshe gave as a term are very rare today to occur, as who will not be able to find a job simply because they cover the hair today in their workforce. In any event, in most shidduchim today, people already know who they're going out with and know that the girl was previously married, and what chashash is there exactly in her covering her hair, which she will in any event do once they get married. To summarize, a once married woman, whether a divorcee or a widow, is obligated to cover her hair in public just as when she was married, while some poskim give room for leniency in specific situations. As we discussed, this is not the mainstream approach of the poskim, and the standard practice amongst God-fearing Jews is not to be lenient. And in the rare case that the situations of the lenient approach is applicable, one should contact their Rav if they desire to try to follow the lenient opinion. We will conclude with what's actually brought down in the Zohar regarding covering the hair, that it brings down bracha and atzlacha to one's family life. And certainly the same would apply for a widow or divorcee who certainly needs and requires divine mercy. Standing strong to this halacha of covering the hair should bring down the divine blessing of consolement and finding their right shidduch to be married in a speedy time.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.